What is 251 and why do I need it? 251 is a chord sequence that you can find in lots of music. Knowing it and being able to recognize it can make improvisation a lot easier. Here's how it works. Harmony is all about tension and release. Think of it as going on a journey and in the end you come back home. Let's take, for example, the scale of C major. We give each note a number from 1 to 7. So C is 1, D is 2, and then so on and so on. Now, let's take the second, the fifth, and the first. So that is the D, the G, and C. The C is the one, and that's when we are back home. Now let's build some chords on each of these notes. Let's build on the second degree, on the D, and let's directly build seventh chords. So we have D, F, A, C, and then let's do the same for 5, for the G. You notice we just use notes from the scale. And then back to 1, C. So when you play this all one after another, then you get it is as simple as that. And of course you can do this with every scale. So for example, let's try A major. Two, 5, 1 would be a B, E, and A. Let's go back to C major. Here are a few ways that you can practice this 2-5-1 sequence. So you can already play just the chords like we did. Now, of course, we want to be very efficient, not to call ourselves lazy, but we want to make as little jumps as possible. So instead of making this jump, let's try to keep everything closer together. And then we go just down. And then back up. So these are the same notes, we just play them in a way that we don't have to make big jumps. When you're improvising, you can use all the scale notes in this sequence. For example, let's go back to our chord notes, and now before each chord note, let's add a half step down. It goes like this. We can expand on this. We can add one note above and we keep the half step below as well. Here's a fun little thing to do, is substitutions. Let's, for example, change the 5 for a different chord. Let's use the tritone substitution when we take, instead of the G, we take a tritone of that. That is C sharp, and the chords, we build them just the same way. And then the whole progression goes like this. The result is the same, we end up at 1 when we are back home. Next, let's add some extensions. So we have our 7th chords, where the C is the 7th, but we can add a 9. In fact, it sounds even better if you change the 9 in the 5 to a flattened 9. It gives the whole thing a bit more character. I already said we don't like big jumps, but sometimes we do. So you can also use the chords in bigger range. Instead of keeping the chord very compact, we can make it wider. So instead of doing, we use the same notes, but we keep them further apart. So we play next, inversions. That is when we use a different note of the chord as our basis. So, for example, we can use the F as our basis. And that means that the D that we had in the bottom, we now have to put it on top. And then our next chord would be, so that becomes, and then the 1, that will become, you can make another inversion where we use the 3rd note of the chord as our basis. So that will become, that will become, and then let's go back to being efficient. There are some notes that stay the same throughout the chords. So for example, in the 2 and the 5, we have the D and the F are the same. So we can keep those. And then 5-1. Here we can keep the G and the B. fine. We can use inversions on this as well. This is just the tip of the iceberg, so stay tuned for more. As always, if you find this video helpful or if you have any questions, leave me a comment and subscribe, and then we see each other again next time.